what the young people want.
Yeah.
Right? And if he's going to fall in line with what the Ruto regime wants, it's a departure from what the young people are saying, right? You know, Baba he has very strong credentials, and there's no Kenyan who doesn't recognize his very significant contributions towards like human rights and multi-party democracy in Kenya. We applaud him for that, but that does not mean that he's always right. And on this specific issue, Baba is wrong. The young people are not asking you to go and speak on their behalf. They have not also asked. You're a stakeholder, and in fact, rightfully so. The country belongs to all of us. They are not also asking for any more commissions. You had BBI, you had this new process last year, NADCO. Yeah. We are done with that. We know what needs to be done, and if he wants to be on the right side of history, he should stand on the side of Gen Z.
It's good.
Yeah.
Practicality is another story. But however, it's a matter of letting the experts, your subject matter experts, handle that. He has not been. He wants to do everything.
But,
yeah.
No, but I think also part of the problem is that the communication team that he has around him, because he had been lauded for being a very good communicator. You know, like all these times during campaigns.
It's kind of got into his head.
So it kind of got into his head. Yeah. But I think...
The demands that Gen Z are making, I've looked at them, to detail. Making sure that the law around like corruption is actually followed. Don't hire these people. Don't keep them in government.
Yeah, integrity
issues.
And then Gen Z are saying one thing.
Those are very realistic. No money. They are very realistic things to them.
They've said one thing. If you're saying there's no money in the country, you're saying money was looted. The looters are still in the country. Go after them.
Yeah, arrest them. Yeah.
It's simple as them. It's simple as that. So the money is still here.
So I think the
general... Why are you saying there's no money?
Yeah, the general message is the Ruto regime, by now I know, have a list of the Gen Z demands. They even went as far as giving them a timeline with target completion dates. Just follow that.
Yeah.
The country will come down. Let us see you firing corrupt officials.
Yeah.
Don't just take off the head of the Inspector General of Police. Show us the people who killed Kenyans.
Yes.
And let them go through due process of law. The evidence is there. We're not even. In fact, there was a documentary where they were saying, "Oh, wait," he was saying, "Where's the evidence? Where's the evidence?" We're like, people were being shot on live TV globally. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
about evidence.
Yeah. So a couple of, quite a number of comments have been coming as we've been speaking here. Poleni commenters nimekuwa nikiwa neglect kidogo, but mambo ilikuwa imechemka hapa ndani ya studio. Now Doreen says Ruto was more a student, but he's forgetting these were analog days. Whatever he learned from Moi can't work in the digitized world today. Vance Marube says, true Mika, on yesterday's Standard newspaper, Murkomen built a bungalow in grabbed ICDC land with Chinese road kickbacks. Ruto is crafty, Ruto must go. Evans father says Ruto is playing a mind game, so Ruto waited for Gen Zs to awaken him that his cabinet was rotten. A fish rots from the head, Ruto must go. Evans Marube is not playing. Now, we have Stephen JJ says, values from nursery school to university. Ruth Kilungu. Ruth says Kenya has really good laws and regulations on paper, but they are not enforced. And then we have Stephen Batty here saying, I think there should be a threshold with the amount of money that someone has to campaign so that we stop this issue of bribery, especially in the villages, not in the city. People are really hungry at home, and these politicians know how to use the money and bribe them. Would you refuse to take a packet of flour and walk away, and not have a meal for the evening because of some politician? That is where I strongly agree with Mika. And then Rasvik says, it's not just a slogan. Zakayo is going, my friend. And then Washeke here says, telling Humphrey, remind again when we are occupying IMF. So the IMF is being occupied on Saturday, July the 20th. Saturday, July the 20th in Washington, D.C., 1900 Pennsylvania Avenue, HQ2, IMF headquarters. An easy way to remember is that the White House is at 1800 Pennsylvania Avenue. IMF HQ2 is 1900 Pennsylvania Avenue. It's 12:30 to 3:30 p.m. So please, and
that's next Saturday.
That's next
That's this
Saturday.
coming
Not
Saturday.
Not tomorrow, but next
Saturday.
week Saturday.
Okay.
Yes.
So see your kesho
See you kesho.
So occasion in next week.
occasion.
next
Yeah.
Saturday.
Next week Saturday. So to text us if you feel inspired, feel free to come.
Southwest or Wagana sale.
Yeah, Southwest wako na sale.
Unajua waambie kitu, wakikuja wengi, hata wakikuja wengi tunaweza ambia sani ya Kedunda.
Ndo hivyo sasa. And then Omosh has a very, very big house. All of you can fit in there. I'm already volunteering that space for you guys. And then hapa, let me see. Washeke says, let me see. Hata tulikuwa tumefika wapi?
We have been having commissions since independence, but no action.
Ngoja. I think, yeah. So,
But before that was Evans Marube says Ruto and his legislative sycophants were caught off guard.
Yeah, okay.
They didn't expect Gen Z's uproar. Ruto is reaching Rao for survival, but Gen Z's aren't buying it.
No.
It will be a tall order for Ruto.
Yeah, and then Washeke says we have been having commissions since independence, but no action. Stephen says police did the same in Dallas and Houston. I can say for a fact they had detectives helping us. The police were actually calling me to suggest options if there was no place available. They walked close to us, make sure we were safe. And then White House is 1600. It's not 1800.
1600 Pennsylvania. Avenue,
Okay. I think I've been saying 1800. Poleni.
Barabara ni moja.
Yeah.
Ni WhatsApp group ndio ulitoa.
Okay.
Barabara ni moja.
Yeah, kwa hivyo si mbali sana ni 1600. My bad. Yeah. My bad. And then mi sijaenda White House.
Now
White House
YouTube, I know there are YouTube comments on YouTube.
Yes.
It's only like 3. So
Still
Val says Occupy IMF. Viva Gen Z's tuko pamoja kama mapaja. Oh, she said mapacha. I guess she must have meant mapaja.
Mapata na mapaji.
Mapata na mapaja.
Yes.
Twins, baby, twins.
Yes. Iko pamoja.
Yeah. I
So
think both work.
Stephen Okot says Mika.
To which we say viva.
Yes, viva Val.
Ruto must go.
Ruto must go.
Ish, woi. And then Stephen Okot says Mika hapendi wigiji.
Okay.
In line with what he was saying. And then
Wikiji, yeah.
yes. And then ati mtoto wa Ruto
Nasomeanga watoto wengine. Kwende huko.
ati mtoto wa Ruto office of the first daughter. Again,
Hiyo ni
that's Stephen
upuzi.
Okoth.
Yeah.
I think that's it from YouTube.
And then
to our peoples on YouTube, Santeni, keep it up.
Yeah, what is asking an important question. We need all DJs and promoters to come together and share the IMF protest flyer ASAP. We know you can. So please tag them. Ndo isikuwe ni mimi niliwataga. Please tag them.
Kwa nini utaki kuwatag?
And we want them
Alafu,
want them also to be there, the local ones.
And then we also need media personalities. We need people who can report and broadcast this to the world. Because as I was saying earlier, we have a leverage point and we are taking it, right?
Yes.
But we need people who can actually disseminate this and let the world know what we're doing.
Larry Madawa should be reached out to.
Yeah.
Larry
So yeah. I mean, if you know any influencer, please tag them. And I think we haven't shared the flyer. We're gonna start sharing the flyer on our OneMicShow page after the show. So we did not want it to, but tutaanza kushare, and I'm gonna share it in the different groups so that you can share it. You can share it wide.
And the hashtag is IMF must.
IMF must go.
Go.
Yeah.
IMF
Now,
must go.
I want to remind the listeners that you tuned into the One Mic Show, and I'm your host and producer, Ali Badawi. Of course, in studio tonight, we have DC-based environmental and social justice organizer, Dr. Nathan Wangusi. Now, Dr. Wangusi is a former parliamentary aspirant, Langata constituency, and is part of a team that's organizing another protest next Saturday, the 20th of July, at the IMF Global Headquarters in DC, 1900 Pennsylvania Avenue. He's also been doing media rounds on non-Kenyan media talking about the ongoing Gen Z revolution in Kenya. We'll shortly be talking about Azimio leader Raila Odinga's attempt at a handshake, so stay tuned for that. Our lines are open. The number to call is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. Feel free to call in. But before we continue. Real quick, Dr. Wangusi, please give the details, the venue, and the timings of the protest at the IMF. Real quick, Dr.
And
Modi.
please, it's not 1800.
It's not 1800.
1800 ilikuwa ni White House, but White House is not 1800. Yeah, White House is 1600. Yeah, so
1600.
yeah, White House is 1600. So IMF ni 1900. But anyway,
Yeah,
go ahead.
Saturday the 20th. This coming Saturday, at 12:30 to about 3 o'clock, we'll be out there protesting at the IMF HQ2. Keep in mind that there's several IMF buildings, so keep in mind that it's the one at 1900 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Yes, and we'll be giving details about parking Nanini. The closest metro station is Farragut North.
Farragut North, yeah.
But it will be like a 12-13 minute walk, so you have to be prepared for that. Or if you want to get an Uber directly, that's also an option that you can use. We're gonna make an assessment of the parking situation. I don't know whether you guys did the recon earlier today. Is there parking around there? Is only street parking?
There's a lot of street parking in that area. The problem is whether you'll actually find it available,
No,
because
no.
there's a lot of housing and all of that. So I would advise, if you can take public transportation,
That's the best
or
option.
if you know the DC area, because with the locals, if you know the DC area well, you can park sometimes a couple of blocks away.
Okay.
But that area has a lot of residential
properties,
meaning
yeah.
like apartments and things like that, because GW, the school is around that area.
Yeah.
There's the hospital also around there. So it's
too much
finding
action.
street parking is normally difficult, because those buildings charge the residents for parking. So a lot of them on the weekends or days off or whatever it is, then they'll end up, and then again we have tourists. So just come in prepared not to find parking, and maybe Uber in or take
Okay.
public transportation and then walk.
Yeah, and then for those who are coming from out of town, you have a choice between taking the Amtrak and Megabus. So no need to drive in, just take one of the public transport options to come and represent. I want to say this about this protest and Kenyans showing up. When we have cultural events, religious events, we show up. But this time we need to show up for our country. And there's no other group of people anywhere in the world who can do what we're doing this weekend. So please be there or be square.
Yes.
I'll also say this: like, if you're coming from Baltimore or whatever, you can just pack up a green belt, green line,
and take a
Yeah,
and
metro.
take
and
the red
metro
line
in,
and
yeah.
metro in.
Metro
I think
in,
that's
yeah.
going to be
Yeah.
easier.
Yeah,
Na
10
kwanza-
minutes is not a
Na
big
kwanza watu
Yeah.
wa
for the
Baltimore,
walk.
I am appealing to Baltimore people.
Because that's
Please,
where the
please.
bulk of us are, right?
Yes, that's where the bulk of Kenyans are in the DMV.
Alafu
Please kujeni.
Swahili Village iko hapo karibu. So ukimaliza tunaingia na
Yeah.
tunajivinjari ndani.
So please,
Kwanza Ali has a permit. See, Ali, you have a permit. You can choma for them nyama.
eh, watu wa Baltimore, please, 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 I beg. Like last week, I did not attend the cookout, but nasikia yani kulikuwa kumejaa.
Alafu
It was
there
more
was-
than last year, was
Yeah.
it? Or they were similar?
I think it was
Yeah.
similar.
They were
It
just
was a
about-
very hot day,
Yeah.
and people still showed
Yeah,
up.
guys.
the other
Yeah.
thing to be sensitive to, and I want to just acknowledge, that not every Kenyan actually agrees with like this political position.
Yes.
We know that, right?
Mhm.
Correct.
But this specific protest is unique because we are not protesting against Ruto
It's against
or his
IMF.
government. It's
Yeah.
the IMF which is affecting us all. It's like the rain,
Mhm.
right? So please be there or be square.
Yes. So yes, and then and I hope this is a commitment from everyone on the One Mic Show that next Saturday.
I have to check and see if I have petrol iko gari.
Okay, that
Aline, by the way, one of the things you probably need to do is you should put the link for the announcement WhatsApp in case there are people who are listening and want to join and kind of get live updates.
You're gonna get Nigerians trying to sell IULs. Oh, sorry, carry on.
Oh no, you're talking about the link
for the WhatsApp group. So if
Oh,
you
yeah,
can
you
post
can
it
control
somewhere
it.
so that
Okay.
people
You can always
join.
control
Yeah, you
it.
can control.
Okay.
Because
You
we
can
know
control
who's
it.
coming in.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know. I don't even know whether you guys are on the. If you can just go to the WhatsApp group and post it on the comments, that would be good, so that anybody who's tuned in right now can just join the WhatsApp group to get the updates and see, like what's going on there. And then because that's where you'll find the flyers and everything else that you need for this event. And then here Stephen JJ says Omosh nini mapaja tena. And then Awar says, watu wa diaspora, can we please make the IMF flyer our profile photo? And then Stephen JJ says, Larimadoa kwa Kenya ama Awar hashtag diaspora for Kenya. And then Dr. Angusi, if you could also put a link to the social media pages. I think there's a Twitter account and also, X, and there's also an Instagram account. So if you could include all that, and I'm going to try to pin all those comments so people can see. And then I was asking for what's the social media account for the DMV chapter folks to follow. We're going to be posting it shortly. And then personal greetings from Pablo to Ruth. And then Ruth says there's plenty.
I think we need to start charging that guy.
Yeah. Ruth says there's plenty of street. Ruth says there's plenty of street parking. Ruth says there's plenty of street parking, but you might have to park 1 to 3 blocks away. So
correct.
So be aware of that. And then Filaruma and Oliza wakona tear gas. Baltimore just cut the mark from downtown to Union, then hop on the red line to 1900. So Phil, I'm assuming that's you telling us that you're coming.
I think that's what he's saying.
Yes, so we're expecting to see you there, Phil.
And there's actually even a
Saturday.
bus that runs that goes to Georgetown. That's like, I think it's $1.50 from Union Station.
Yeah. Okay. And then
not from Union Station.
Not from Union Station, from Farragut North you can walk.
But I'm just saying, kama mtu amechukua Amtrak.
Pale kando ya Swahili Village. Hapo Swahili Village ukipiga right. Your street hapo. Like the entrance as if you're going north. When you take a right,
that's on 19th and M.
There's a lot of street parking in Ujina.
Okay. Sawa.
There's a lot of street parking and you can walk.
So
I don't know why people fear walking.
I just posted the WhatsApp chat link. So
okay. Sawa. Yeah, I'll go ahead and try to pin it. Now Washeke here says Ali Badawi have reached to someone out on X for co-hosting a space to amplify the IMF occupation. I will circle back once I get a response. Thank you so much, Washeke, for that. And then let me see. Evans anasema Mbogia Pie tunakuja halafu kufinish Kumalo Swahili Village. Thank you so much, Evans Marube. There is also Gidra from Pie. So I think you need to connect with Gidraf. I'll send you his contacts. It's also I don't know what part of Pie Evans Marube you're in, because I think in a Gidraf wako side ya maybe a Harrisburg, Lancaster.
Not Reading?
Reading, yes. Wako Reading, side ya Reading, PA. So Evans, maybe tell us what side of PA you're in, because it would be good if you guys can carpool. And then, of course, if you're coming from parts of PA like Philly, unaweza simama collect watu wa Delaware. And then
watu wa Bimo.
No, before fike Bimo kuna watu wa Aberdeen kwanza. Umesahau kuna Aberdeen first. And then after Aberdeen
Aberdeen wangekuwa wameshaanza safari.
Kuna Aberdeen, kuna Have the Grace, alafu kuna
Japatown. Yeah.
Alafu kuna watu wameanza kuingia kwa WhatsApp group. Kwa hivyo
okay. Sawa. Okay, good. So that's all the details will be. And then Washeke anamwambia Phil wako na strawberry and watermelon flavored. Tear gas. Okay.
Ani waswashisha wanaongea acha nao.
Yeah, and then Pablo anasema hiyo alibadai who says Twitter. I mean me.
Inaitwa Twitter bana.
Hii kitu inaitwa Twitter, mambo ya X is too much. Yeah, and then
because with that racist apartheid schmuck.
And then Udia anasema
Elon Musk.
And watoto can eat at McD next to Swahili Village.
Omosh was just chilling.
Yani this guy. Yani amekuja ametoa pesa kutoka mfuko yake hivyo.
Yeah.
Maze.
Ndio hivyo ametoa tu pesa just like that.
Akasema
just like that.
Kivyo azitengeneza nuggets.
You just ate from his plate. You just ate from Kevin Onyona's plate, but it's okay. But it's okay. Yeah, there's a place for every budget. I mean,
correct. Yeah, in that area. If you're gonna be in that area, there actually.
But my advice, if you're gonna go to Swahili Village, do the platter. It's always
the platter is
it works. Yeah. So that's where we are. And then again, let me see. I don't know. Ulikuwa umeweka link hapo kwa nini? Ulikuwa umeweka link kwa
ya WhatsApp yani?
Yeah, link ya WhatsApp ulikuwa umeweka hapa kwa comments.
I hope umekaribisha DJ Christian.
Okay. Yeah, nimeona DJ Christian hapo ameingia.
Tuned in.
Okay, I'm gonna try to find it because I'm not seeing it. Uno kama umeona hiyo WhatsApp link, please try to pin it so that people can
imeweka kwa chat.
Yeah, so mi sijaiona kwa chat but yeah.
Watu umeiona juu watu wameanza
ama what you can do, unaweza kusend kwa ile WhatsApp group yetu alafu umetuma hapo yeah, alafu unaenda kwa hiyo WhatsApp group hiyo show prep and then iweke kwa chat and pin it so that everybody will be able to join that group. And this is for the protest happening at IMF on the 20th of July, Saturday, from 12:30 to 3:30. Be there early enough, and we're going to give more details once we get that X space to host this. Now, just a different trajectory, kidogo, Dr. Wangusi, you know, because our time is running short. You've been involved in multiple international media engagements, and you and I have done some of them together with the Haitians, for example. So maybe please talk to us about some of the media outlets you've spoken to, maybe what nationalities you've spoken to, and what are people from other countries outside Kenya asking about the ongoing revolution in Kenya? Dr. Angusi.
So the first question I was asked at one of these interviews, actually in Barbados,
yeah,
what is in the water that Kenyans drink?
Okay.
Right? Because Kenyans are showing...
Kiburi.
Eh?
Kiburi.
Kenyans are showing a level of not just political maturity, but also boldness that is not common.
It's unprecedented.
Right? It's unprecedented anywhere in the world, right? And particularly in an African country where we know, you know, our governments don't necessarily have a very good record for human rights, respecting human rights. As you said, one of the groups of people who have been really interested in the Kenyan political space, other than, you know, our usual suspects, the Tanzanians and you know, the countries around us, Uganda, you know, wondering, you know, what I actually learned is that other countries follow our political system even closer than some of their own, right? Our neighbors.
Correct.
Yes.
So most people will tell us, you know, they have something to say about our MPs and our president. But then the Haitians came into the fold when there was an announcement that they were going to send this peacekeeping police force to Haiti to help with stabilization and to deal with the gang problem there. Most Haitians, and I the first time I actually had any interaction with a Haitian regarding this was in an airport. Most of us Kenyans wear this Kenyan bracelet. First of all, that they recognize that it was a Kenyan flag meant that they now know that who we are. The response from the local population is hostile, had been hostile. So kind of it led to this discussion with a Haitian social justice movement and group that are organizing this protest, and they wanted to know, like, what do Kenyans actually think, the local population, like what do Kenyans think about what Ruto is doing in terms of like this blackface occupation of our country. And they were very relieved. Ali, you remember we had this discussion with a group from, I think it's called Komokoda.
Yeah.
And they were relieved to hear that the Kenyan people do not want it. Not even the police themselves who are going are not for it, because it bears no strategic interest for the Kenyan people other than a cash deal. Then we were called to speak on Haitian public radio. And the questions were along the lines of, you know, we agree that the president he's kind of committed to this and he's going to actually follow through. I want to also just point out to Kenyans that this thing happened on the same day of Maandamano. By the way, it happened on 25th July.
Yeah, when
so our sovereignty was sold on two fronts, right? To the IMF and then to the US government.
Yeah.
Our young people's blood, sweat, and
that's when we're given a non-NATO ally status.
Non-NATO ally status. What?
Yeah.
You know what?
And that's the same day we
matter?
landed, by the way, in Haiti.
Yeah,
that's the same day
it was a coincidence.
It was the same day we landed. They were pulling into Haiti, 400 chaps, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So you know, the public, you know, they were interested to learn, like, first, what do Kenyans actually feel and think about this occupation? We want that comfort or like assurance that this is just not, you guys are not colonizers. It's this one individual. Then I happened to, visit the island of Barbados on a family visit, not a family visit, but like with family.
Yeah.
Yani ulienda vacation.
Nilikuwa naenda birthday party.
Yeah.
Nilikuwa naenda birthday
Ndio
party.
hivyo. Ndio hivyo Mosh.
I think
Kubali tu.
we're in the wrong WhatsApp group.
Yes, we're in the wrong
We're in the wrong WhatsApp group.
Yeah, ndio hivyo.
Umesikia hivyo?
Go to Barbados for a birthday party.
Imagine.
Yeah.
WhatsApp group yetu ndio wrong.
Barbados iko hapa tu karibu. It's just off the coast of Florida.
Unasikia vile unasema?
Iko chini kuliko tikiti ya nini? Hata ya New York.
Hapa
tu karibu.
Umesikia vile amesema?
Okay, sawa.
I ended up stranded. I actually ended up stranded on that island without watu wangu hawakufika juu hurricane ilikuwa inapita.
Oh no.
Immediately I got there.
Yeah.
Nimeingia kwa taxi. The taxi lady, it's a small island. There's like 280,000 people. Hiyo ni Langata times 2. Hata haijafika.
It's small.
It's small.
It's small. Yes.
So she immediately, she gets really excited. She's like, "Oh, you're from Kenya. What is happening? What's up with Kenyans?
What's going on?
What is
We're
going
hearing a lot of
on?
noise.
We're hearing, we are really impressed that you guys can stand up and challenge the status quo, the IMF and the government. Here in Barbados, we just accept everything that is going on. And what's happening in Barbados is that you have a very similar president to Ruto.
Okay.
This lady, Motley is her name. She's a prime minister. She came in on a very popular mandate. She's very populist in the same way because she's a former prosecutor, so she knows a lot of like locals. Na anajua kuongea lugha ya wananchi.
Correct. Yeah.
Like
Amekuwa kwa ground.
Amekuwa chini huko kichimba.
Yes.
Then she gets to office and then she starts stamping out dissent. Barbados literally does not have an opposition bench. Out of the 30 MPs, hakuna opposition.
So ni kama Tanzania.
It has no opposition. So the
Tanzania,
opposition
what they do?
literally
There's one or two, yeah.
the opposition ni bunge la wananchi. Can you imagine? So this taxi driver happens to be connected to bunge la wananchi, so she puts me in contact and they have a TV station, they have like meetings. So I ended up speaking on that show and the questions literally were just about mindset. What is it about Kenyans that makes you so fierce
and
knowledgeable about your constitution and willing to actually take risks and step up to the plate? Then out of that discussion, I was called to another forum to speak to young people.
Wow.
But
even you as a visitor.
Mi ni mgeni.
Yeah. You had gone for a birthday.
No, he went for a birthday party and then he got stranded.
Nikawa kama nani Robinson Crusoe.
And his people didn't come in. So due to the weather conditions, he was on the ground, but they could not get on the ground.
Then they couldn't come.
Okay.
And he ended up at a TV station.
Where? Okay.
That's an interesting. Not one, but two.
Okay.
Then we spoke to the young people were asking the same questions, and these are very like articulate, well-informed, youth. And the country has very similar problems, right? A small country with limited resources, a lot of like crime, a lot of clampdown of opposition. But their clampdown is not as severe as ours. It's in you speak about the government, and then next thing you know, you've lost your job. You see things like that.
Yeah.
The cybercrime bill. It's a really interesting law. So apparently, the Barbadian Parliament, on the instruction of the Prime Minister, want to pass this law criminalizing insulting the president. Ukitukana prime minister ama MP, even if it's not an insult, just ati mkasirishe, just irritates them, you're liable for
the perception.
Ati mkasirishe tu, you just piss them off kidogo.
Yeah. Yes.
$70,000 or 7 years.
Yeah, so instead of calling him Kimani Machungwa, you call him Kimani
Machungwa. Ati alafu akasirike.
Yeah.
Jam.
So Ali right now would be owing about 100 and
huyu angekuwa ndani zamani. So anyway, so what they wanted to learn,
wengi si mmoja.
Ni mmoja tu, wewe acha hizo
nataka kujua, the thing they really wanted to know is like, what is that it factor that makes the Kenyan people fearless? And what can we learn from that? And how do we bring those lessons to bear in our own communities? So the point here is that what Gen Zs have done, they have put Kenyans on the map for being fierce. And it's not new. By the way, we are one of the few countries in
Correct.
the world that actually challenged the status quo in
Yeah.
the 60s. We are one of the few countries which had an armed rebellion.
An armed
Correct.
rebellion.
This is in our
Mau Mau,
DNA.
yes.
This
Yes.
is in our DNA.
Yeah, it's
But
there.
I think now that the world has heard about it, and the fact that, even in the past, the Caribbeans started putting dreadlocks because of the Mau Mau, right?
Mhm.
So it's kind of this new revolutionary spirit that's kind of permeating to the rest of the world. Now we're hearing, Ghanaians, Mozambicans, Ugandans
Yeah.
now want
Yeah,
to also
yeah.
do the same to
Yeah.
to
And
transform
we
the
have
economy.
become a case study, because I
Become
think
a
this
case
is a
study.
political science case study.
You're a good
Yeah.
case study.
So we have, like our Jamaican listener here, Afro-Jamaican, Kaiser Soze, he says, Maya is one of the best PM in the Caribbean. He's kind of disagreeing with you. She won the election in a landslide.
But I say
She's,
that, right?
she's a strong Pan-African. So I'm not sure what he's talking about. That's Afro-Jamaican.
He was paid by the opposition. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, so I want to just specifically respond to that. Just like Ruto. In fact, I'm not saying what I think, because I didn't meet, I don't know Barbadian politics.
Because Ruto was also wearing counter suits. Strong Pan-African.
Strong Pan-African,
Yeah.
kind of
And then
projecting
engaging
this,
with Macron.
projecting this
Macron, yeah.
image of a global leader. However, I want to tell our Jamaican brother, go and look at what she's doing domestically. Go and check what she's doing domestically. Specifically, go and read the articles about the cybercrime bill, criminalizing like freedom of speech, right? That's supposed to be encapsulated in their constitution. So I beg to differ, but what I heard in Barbados is that she has a popular mandate, but she's also very repressive.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that's interesting. And then I also...
So how did you get out? I'm just curious, because in a car, Barbados let him out. Missing him, I wouldn't have let him out.
If you have watched the Pirates of the Caribbean, there was a point in time where he was asked, "How did you get out of that island?" He says, "I whipped my belt. Nikapanda, what are they called?
Chariot.
No, turtles.
Oh yes,
Yeah,
the sea turtles. Yes.
And they took
Got
you
out
out.
of the island. They took me out
Okay.
of the island. But I took a flight out.
All right, good.
This guy.
Like despite that, I also personally had some engagements with Haitian media.
Uh-huh.
One from New York and another one local in DC, where we were on the same show with Dr. Wangusi, and it's quite interesting that the Haitians were very interested in knowing, like what regular Kenyans think. And I think with these engagements that we've had, they're now comfortable to the fact that it's not the Kenyan people, it's just specifically the president, because they even they attended our protests.
Yeah.
We expect to see them on the IMF protest, because despite the occupation, the blackface occupation that Kenyan police force right now is in Haiti, Haiti is also experiencing issues with the IMF.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of commonalities that we have. So we do expect people from different countries to come for the protest on Saturday, the 20th of July. So no excuse, if you're a Kenyan, because people from other countries are coming.
Any advisable dress, or should you just
Kenyan
come
colors. Kenyan colors, it's gonna be it's summer, just dress for the summer. Just come with there's usually a lot of drinking water that we have available there, but also make sure you come with some water, and make sure you drink a lot of water as the day goes by.
Yeah, because it's very easy to fall out because of
and then
dehydration.
and then also in addition to water, maybe some snacks. We saw some people pass out because of
Was it the
because of
dehydration or the lack of food, or both?
maybe both.
It may be
Yeah.
both. Yeah.
If you have
Hiyo
medication,
jua
you
kwa
can-
noma.
so-
Yeah,
Hiyo
that's
jua
true.
kwa
Can get
noma. Hiyo
dehydration.
today, the day was there, that sun was hot. Hata me, luckily, I used to, they were going to demonstrate 15 minutes, mbio kwa gari 5 minutes, na kula alafu narudi tena hivi.
Aya, sawa. Sasa now, as we are getting to a close, you've previously run for office, Dr. Ngusi. What is it about the ongoing situation that the political class is still not getting in Kenya? You saw Azimio leader Raila Odinga earlier in the week attempt to start a handshake process. If you had access to his office in Upper Hill, what would you be telling Baba? And you're also a member of the ODM party.
Yeah.
What would you be telling Baba?
So I'll tell him what other young legislators from the party told him.
Yeah.
The day after, Senator Gisheru Okech from Migori, and I believe also Senator Edwin Sifuna, went to Baba and they told him, this is not what the young people want.
Yeah.
Right? And if he's going to fall in line with what the Ruto regime wants, it's a departure from what the young people are saying, right? You know, Baba he has very strong credentials, and there's no Kenyan who doesn't recognize his very significant contributions towards like human rights and multi-party democracy in Kenya. We applaud him for that, but that does not mean that he's always right. And on this specific issue, Baba is wrong. The young people are not asking you to go and speak on their behalf. They have not also asked. You're a stakeholder, and in fact, rightfully so. The country belongs to all of us. They are not also asking for any more commissions. You had BBI, you had this new process last year, NADCO. Yeah. We are done with that. We know what needs to be done, and if he wants to be on the right side of history, he should stand on the side of Gen Z.
Okay.
Right.
So very simple. He should just stand on the side of Gen Z.
And he said, initially he said that Gen Z told him to sit aside.
Yeah.
And let them deal with this issue. And they have dealt with it very decisively, and they've given their demands.
Yeah.
So let that happen. Then after the fact, after we are done with all these proposals to reduce the tax burden, to deal with corrupt officials that we know are still in government, to deal with police brutality, to get rid of all these people who are from the same communities in government agencies. After that, tell us about what we can do to talk.
Yeah, and I think because this thing has happened so fast, people, these are systems that people have learned over the last 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
So you don't just unlearn them, because this thing has been flipped upside down.
The script has been flipped.
It has been flipped. It's kind of like you've been a taxi driver for 30 years. You've built knowledge of the streets, without using a GPS. And then overnight, Uber pops up. Like a guy from high school, or maybe a guy who's not even ever done this business
from a different city.
Yeah, from a different, doesn't even know the town, does a 30-minute training and can do that work more efficiently than you.
Yeah.
So it's a very difficult
so
thing
they're
to
defaulting
digest.
They're defaulting
to what they know.
To what they know.
Yes.
But they need to start paying attention to the fact that even the leadership of Gen Z, if I was Ruto's security chief, I'd go and tell him,
yeah,
the leadership of Gen Z is distributed. That's a new concept in leadership.
Yes.
There is no one person who's sitting there and giving instructions that you can go and find either to talk to or to deal with.
Yeah, and that's
you will have to finish a whole generation if you want to do that.
I was going to say, I think somebody mentioned in the comments, the times are different. You cannot run the Moi program today.
Yes.
You can't. And one thing that also has plagued his administration is communication. For some reason, it's like they don't know how to communicate, and they're not learning that. For example, remember the I think, and this was last year when he had the roundtable with Akina Sam Gituku, I think Abdikadir.
Ayub Abdikadir.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
They were talking about, he was trying to explain member of the housing levy.
Yeah.
And he was just getting pummeled. He's being asked questions, very simple questions. Is it anchored in law? Which law? He really doesn't know. He doesn't know. And that is why you're supposed to get your cabinet, your cabinet ministers to answer questions. Like now, for example, it took Alice Wahome to go and start explaining about the land issue, about the taxes and everything, and the miscommunication, misinformation. His own advisor on matters health, is the one who was explaining. I did a good job of explaining what SHIF was, how it's supposed to work.
Yeah.
It's one thing on paper. It's good.
Yeah.
Practicality is another story. But however, it's a matter of letting the experts, your subject matter experts, handle that. He has not been. He wants to do everything.
But I think also part of the problem is that the communication team that he has around him, because he had been lauded for being a very good communicator, like all these times during campaigns.
It's kind of got into his head.
So it kind of got into his head.
Yeah.
But I think now the communication team that he moved forward with, were people who are all about public relations and telling people feel good messages. But now when you're governing,
when the rubber meets the road,
Yeah.
you know, that doesn't work
and-
anymore.
and-
Because remember, even on that interview that he did with Linus Kaikai, Joageo,
is it Linus or Linus?
Linus and Joageo and
Eric Latif.
and Eric Latif.
Yes.
Remember, like what he was saying, even after everything, he still kept saying that the finance bill was good, and the problem was that his communication team was not able to communicate to people and tell them how good it is. That's what he was saying in the interview.
The other one,
But
I
then,
want to surface.
Ali, you also have to realize one thing.
Yeah.
It's that, and again, I'll say, the thing is, his arrogance and his people's arrogance is what put him here.
As I said
It doesn't
earlier,
matter.
right?
It doesn't
Yeah.
matter how much how much articulate he is. It doesn't matter how much Hussein and the communication team is trying to polish and coach him on what to do. They have an arrogance in them that they would always think they were above the law. Because remember,
Mhm.
immediately after Parliament was occupied, that statement he put out when he called people treacherous and criminals, and we had seen people being killed on TV, and him asking for, and then it was reported that he tried to get the military deployed that night, and the military said no.
And I think that's by the way, I want to point out just
Yeah,
allow me to interject. One of the things that,
let me finish real quick, and then I'm gonna get back to
yeah.
you. So you see, it's the arrogance. It's them. It's that bad governance that got into them
Mhm.
that's put them where they are. Right now they're trying to clean it up, and it's so bad that you cannot clean it up.
Yeah.
You know, like ile ulipewa nini uchemshe chakula, umefanya imeungua mpaka imekwama kwa sufuria unajaribu kusugua watu wasijue aiezi. So because this one you cannot even, actually his PR team are trying by getting him into the spaces, trying to get him into you see, like even trying to do pressers, both of them, like to try to show like they're a unit of like, but it's hard. It's hard it's hard. Umechoma, watu wako wamechoma. There was so much bad blood on this finance bill. Like members of parliament were telling people like mlinichagua lakini sasa nafanya kenye mdosi wangu ameniambia. Like people are telling others like nimeiba ya kutosha, hata I don't need a second term.
The other thing I wanted to point out is President Ruto, he misunderstood his mandate. So, and it came with this arrogance that we're describing, because he thought he came in because he had convinced the population that he was the better candidate
he was not dynasty.
He wasn't dynasty, basically.
Yeah.
That was the idea.
He was a new guy.
He was a new
Bottom
guy.
up.
Yeah.
Kenyans elected him specifically because they wanted these economic issues dealt with. And the arrogance that we're describing, from the kind of like lavishness that you see in cabinet, this kind of foreign trips, and if he's doing it, you can imagine what his underlings are doing.
Look at
He
him.
misunderstood his mandate.
Engineer
And
Sunday.
the Gen Zs have been what they are trying to do is to remind him that we put you in place, first and foremost, to protect our sovereignty, our economy, our people. And then they even came in saying things like, no Kenyan is ever going to have to worry about, being abducted and these kinds of things. And then
Extrajudicial killings.
immediately you get
Yeah.
into office, the first conflict you have, that's what you default to. So I think he misunderstood his mandate, and unless he comes back to the basics, right, and not do things like appoint his cousins in half of the government agencies, unless he comes back to the basics, I don't see his.
I wanted to echo Mika's
success.
I wanted to echo Mika's point when it comes to communication, because in fact, in the first place, and I think it was Eric Latif who pointed this out, the authors of the finance bill was not the finance committee, it was treasury.
Yes.
Those are the guys who should have been making rounds, not Kimani Kuria, not that other idiot from Mbere North, that Ruku guy. Like, even the roundtable that they were having, and you're trying to explain the motor circulation tax, and you cannot. It should have been Professor Ndungu. Those guys are the ones who should have been making rounds to explain to the people.
They explain the bread tax was because of
diabetes. They can't do that. Oh, and by the way, one of your constituents says hello. And you're supposed to play golf with her some time back. Unamkumbuka?
Okay.
Umetaja jina? Yeah. I've sambaza the message. I don't know if she wanted the name.
Barbados for birthdays and now playing golf. But anyway,
are you a golfer?
Are you a dynasty?
I'm not a dynasty.
Are you a golfer?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So apparently you're supposed to play golf.
Fairfax County has a very good public golf system.
Okay.
Golfing,
Okay.
program. So in ile wananchi si ile
dynasty.
So are you saying that their tea fees are not as expensive as other regular?
They are publicly owned. The golf courses are public. It's like 9 or 10 publicly owned golf courses. So
okay, so
so hizo ni free ama 10 bob?
Ni kama 215 bob.
I'll just give a generic name, anaitwa Njeri.
Okay.
Njeri.
Haya, sawa. Okay.
You might not be able to go back home. What I would suggest, that guy who brought the message, uone vile gari yako inaweza ingia. He is.
Now another thing here, the decentralized nature of the protests back home, or the way they're being referred to as leaderless, partyless, fearless, and tribeless. And of course, this is unlike anything that we've seen before in Kenya or even across Africa. From your assessment, how long might this last before Gen Z seriously should start thinking about having a political formation for election 2027, regardless of what happens, even if they're able to take out Ruto? But how long do you think this will last, or maybe what do you think they need to start doing? Because what they're doing right now so far is working, but at what point should they start now thinking of a political formation? Or are we also, like looking from a perspective of learners, because we're also learning?
Yeah, so I think it depends on what Gen Zs ultimately want, right? It sounds to me, from many of their demands, that what they're gunning for is political power to decide the destiny of their country, right? And I'm very pragmatic in that respect, because power is not given. It's fought for and taken. And in a democracy, where that happens is at the ballot box. So ultimately, just like Sabasaba in the past generations, and even Mau Mau, eventually they coalesced around political organizations, right? They coalesced as a political force. In the Mau Mau case, one of the big failures of Mau Mau, by the way, if you remember, is that the leadership did not transition from the struggle into political power. And a lot of them were left out of the national discourse afterwards, and that poverty has persisted.
But then there's usually that argument where, like, the revolutionaries, like, they're good at doing revolutionary work, but not necessarily.
So there's a
governing.
balance. There's a balance to be struck. Successful revolutionary movements, like, and when I say success here, is you come up with a revolutionary idea or position and then transition that into governing. We've seen that in Cuba. We've seen that in certain parts of the Middle East, with varying levels of success. The caution here is that the Gen Zs have created a power vacuum, right? Everyone is now wondering, okay, wait, my method of governing doesn't work. Ruto is firing his cabinet. So there's a power vacuum, and it's not going to stay empty. Someone has to take it. We have to make sure, by hook and crook, that space is taken by those who are representative and can speak on behalf of the Gen Z movement.
Okay.
If we don't do that, likely what is going to happen is going to not be the Sabasaba case, but it's going to be the Mau Mau case. They're going to be locked out of power, and then these problems will persist. So personally, I think in short order, strategically, they should start to think about forming a political movement to now take those issues to the ballot box and then directly to the other arms of government.
Could they create this political movement within the same model they have of let's not call it leaderless, and I mean the word decentralized, I actually got it from you.
Yeah.
Whereby wherever there is need, you know, like unajua, so sisi Waislamu kuna hadithi inasema like whenever you're traveling, I think is it 2 or more people, even for as small a task as that, you're required to select a leader amongst, you know, like the 3 of you for that, just
and there's
just
no
to
shortage.
accomplish
We've
just
seen
to
it.
accomplish that small task.
Yeah.
So I'm saying within that decentralized nature, do you think they should maybe start, you know, like looking for those leaders, for example, on demand?
Those have emerged already,
Yeah.
right? So by default of the way political protests work, there are those who will come out and be the most vocal, or those who will be targeted, or those who will come out and speak up and come out and organize, right? That has already happened. So it's not even a matter of like trying to figure out who are the leaders or who can actually take up those positions. But you already have young people who have come out and they're giving very eloquent speeches and be able to articulate the issues very kind of forcefully. So, you know, we're not saying that the movement becomes about the political actors,
Discourse,
the political actors actually. But amongst those, there has to be a political movement, because not everyone is going to become a politician. Like when you look at Sabasaba, our previous Chief Justice Mutunga, at some point he was actually being asked to become I don't know if remember this, but at some point he was being fronted as the front runner for the presidency, and he refused. He said, I am not a politician. So not everyone is going to be a politician. People are leaders in different respects, and you need people, you know, who are human rights defenders in those agencies. You need people who are good and ethical lawyers sitting in the judiciary. You need people in all arms of government. So Gen Z need to start thinking about kuchukua usukani
within that movement.
To take that, to take the reins of
because
leadership.
I think what over the years attracted all kinds of shady personalities to political spaces is the amount of money that was being, not necessarily even being earned, money that was being stolen. So I think that's what ended up attracting a lot of people, because those are the ones who ended up
they're very good at it,
are
right?
getting rich. But I think if we get a system where now, like, you can make money in the private sector, a good economic system where you can make money in the private sector, I don't think there will be that much of a thirst to want to go there. But then, of course, there are also these other people who are not necessarily part of the Gen Z movement, but have come out to defend them. For example, the LSK chair, Faith Odhiambo. You know, you have people like Okia Omtata. You know, these are figures that they can already see that even before this movement came along, these were people who are trying to talk on our behalf and articulating, you know, like some of the issues that we are asking for.
And the caution is, again, I want to just kind of end on this point. Power is not given. It's not donated. It has to be earned. And in Kenya, being a constitutional democracy, which is what we want, we don't want to leave a power vacuum where negative or this kind of unethical actors. Yeah, because mshaiona ikifanyika. See, well, Baba is a respected figure, but there was a power vacuum, and he took it. Or at least he attempted. Then the Gen Zs came back and said, "Hey, you're not representing us." So someone
who is we?
We, right? So we are going to have to, whether or not, you know, Gen Zs want to, either we take that power, we fill that power vacuum, or someone will fill it. Right?
Wow. Yeah. And now, just coming back to the diaspora, and I know time is running out a bit. These protests that we're doing here, IMF, we did tour the Kenyan embassy. Are these things that are having any impact back home? Or are we just satisfying ourselves, kujichocha tu? Or maybe at what point should the diaspora, at what point should we start and should we stop so that we can align and complement this movement that's happening back home?
Yeah, so as you know, the what is happening at home is goes far beyond just kind of going on the streets, right? There's also persons who have been injured. There's legal challenges that are ongoing. I just spoke to someone at home who was telling me, you know, bail and bond has become one of the most difficult things for the LSK to raise, right? So there's no reason why we as the diaspora should not be donating and supporting the home front in that respect. I just wanted to get that out of the way. So when we asked to like give, those channels are there. They're formal. We can, if you're on the group, we'll share them. Give so that we support the home front. Do our protests have an impact? I think so, because our audience is different than the audience at home, right? It's a global audience. It brings to bear to the people who are actually driving some of these policies. So like the IMF, who else can go and protest at the HQ, the IMF HQ, than ourselves?
Yeah.
These are the people who are driving the process. And, we were kind of guessing that maybe it's something that has been originated from the Kenya office, but immediately we released the poster, they responded.
Yeah.
That
it was like clockwork.
Almost like a few hours after.
Because they had ignored this thing.
They had ignored it, hoping that, the attention doesn't come to them, because that's how these financial institutions operate. And the fact that they've been challenged by a diaspora who is active, that also tells you, even the US government, we know that there were some legislators who were at parliament when this was happening. Kenyans, by the way, call those legislators. We have the names out on our social media platforms.
Wamesalimiwa.
Tumewasalamia.
And we still need more
and
people
we still need
to
people to call and lobby, because these are leverage points that we have. And then we have the subcommittee on Africa. What is the job of those people other than to deal with issues like, to bring to the fore to the US government what is happening? Because the US government are the ones who embrace this person.
Yes.
They brought him, and the
they
democratic
enabled
leadership,
him.
they enabled him.
Yeah.
So they bear some level of responsibilities, and it is our responsibility to keep these people to account for that.
Okay. Now, last question. How do we avoid Arab Spring mistakes? You can see countries like, especially Libya and Sudan, where there was all this euphoria
and energy.
Yeah. And then it all went south. Yeah. So how do we avoid? I know right now people are not looking at things in Kenya like that's a possibility, but how do we avoid it? Because I'm sure even in those other countries, when these things were happening, people were seeing that this is an uprising, things are going to get better from here. So how do we avoid that?
I think it's the transition of power. It really goes back to that discussion we had earlier about transition of power. There's going to be a power vacuum, because MPs MPs have been blacklisted, right? So there's about half of our parliament today can't even go back to their constituencies. They are being beaten up, right? So what is going to happen is either they'll not run, they'll be scared of running, or if they run, they're not going to go through, right? What will happen after that? There's going to be a power vacuum. There's already a power vacuum that has been created in the cabinet. We expect that there are going to be others. And if we don't put our foot forward to say, this power vacuum are going to be filled by good leaders, ethical leaders, people who look after our interests, the same thing is going to happen. And if once there's a struggle for power, which is what is happening in Arab Spring countries, then it spills over into like civil unrest.
You already have a member of parliament, Dadaab, Farah Maalim.
Yes, exactly.
Who was quoted as saying it was a speech that he gave in his native Somali language.
Yeah.
And he was saying that this was an attempted coup, and if he was the one in charge, he would have
scattered all 5K.
Kill at least 5,000
and that has to do with the narrative, because the first thing, as we were talking about, that's a good example, but as we were saying earlier, the president tried to own the narrative and say, peaceful protesters, criminals, treasonous criminals. We have to own the narrative as well, right? We have to keep owning that narrative, and that also goes to say, if we have the opportunity to like get out and get our voices heard, then it allows us to do that. Because in the eyes of the international community, in the eyes of the DC community, in the eyes of the leadership here, they're going to hear about this protest. We have to own that narrative, and the way we do it is by coming out to be heard.
Aye, Mike Wahenga.
Before I go, I have to say this. It has been brought to my attention that there are people who are really enjoying the love of what Omosh has done with his hair.
Okay. Alienda salon.
And it is being said.
Yeah.
Hold on.
I'm looking.
Omosh hair looks nice.
Yeah.
Tell him we seize him.
Okay, we seize him. Okay.
Na wahenga walinena kilicho na mwanzo hakina budi kuwa na mwisho. Meli imetia nanga. We are about to wrap this puppy up. Mika, Wagade.
Wa- Nilikwambia tafuta outro wengine hujaisikia. Hii mambo yako kurap this papi hapa.
Wewe wacha.
SPS wanakukujia. Anyway,
Umesema ti Oxford, umesema Oxford set haina raba.
anyway,
Man.
wacha tuendelee
Okay,
kwa kai.
endelea.
Let's go back to the, anyway, I want to thank Dr. Wangosi for coming to the show today, coming to join us.
Correct.
And I want to thank our penzi wachangiaji.
Yes.
Penzi wachangiaji for, kama kawaida as always say, hii ni kitu tuko tunapiga story kwa WhatsApp kasi nyingi. You've been pushing us and you've been engaging us and giving us discussions, and I just want to tell people like this is a historical thing that's happening. You know,
Sure is.
my younger brother told me the other day, enyewe Wakenya si ni mabuli, yani tunabuli president wetu, anafuta cabinet, anatuaddress every 2 days, like anatuupdate, anatubembeleza, like no other country has ever bullied a president to that kwa Kenya. And you look at it and realize this country has been going with the pits for so long that it's refreshing. There's an energy that's working and fixing the nation. And no other country has ever done it like that. Even if it gets to a point whereby we'll have to wait until the ballot to fix it completely, but it's a step forward. And it's something that most people need to look at it like, at this point, it's not about which party you are, right? Baba aliambiwa kaa kando, mapia utakusalimia tukufukuze, akakimbia. Right? And so they're fixing everything. So it's up to you. If you love the nation, support them. Like us in the diaspora can come out and make noise during the protest, the protesters out here, and make a noise and get heard. We can make calls to our local legislatures and tell them, what is your thought about this? Like, we have complaints, we have things we ask. We are talking about the IMF, and the people in Kenya complaining about the ambassador, they're complaining about IMF. We can talk about that. It's an election year, so you can make a lot of headway by that. We can make a lot of noise that can be heard and have an impact. And then ukitumanga $10, $20 kwa hiyo line ya LSK and the medical fund, you're going a long way in helping a lot of people who are being persecuted by the government right now. And it keeps on fueling, because the reason these kids are still fighting and doing it is because they know that we have somebody watching our back. And that is why the president is so scared. Back anaanza kusema imaginary financiers from outside the country, like wanataka kusema sijui ni foreign nini, waliekelea Russia, wakaona si Russia, walikuwa nafikiria sijui nini. Like, at the end of the day, a movement that comes from the people, you cannot fight it. You just have to respect it and do what it has to do. So if you love this country and you want it to be fixed, you can be a part of this movement. If you feel like this movement is not to you, ask yourself, when the country goes to the pit, will you be able to lift up your hand and say that I participated in it? Back to you in the studio.
What?
Fire.
Yani mpaka this thing has made Mika sound like he's a poet. Thank you, Daktari Asante Sana, for making time, for coming out and explaining it for folks. And let's not forget, I know we've been saying it and we'll continue to say it, next Saturday, July 20th, we're going to be having a protest at the IMF. That's 1900 Pennsylvania Avenue from 12 midday, I think it is, to 12:30
to 3:30
to 3:30. Parking could be shaky, so just make your way, wear your colors, comfortable shoes, comfortable attire, Kenyan colors, carry water, and as well as some snacks for yourself. Walete watoto pia, sindio?
Walete
Yes,
watoto.
watoto,
Yes.
especially watoto.
That's
Yes.
something we never mentioned, and
Yeah.
we'll continue to say it. Mulete watoto, don't be caught on the wrong side of history. This is historic, and it's, again, a protest at the IMF because of the policies that are retrogressive to countries that borrow money from them. this is, in fact, if this goes the way we want it to go, they may have to start looking at how they deal with countries that borrow money from them, especially African countries / nations. So, with that said, to our viewers and listeners, thank you. Have a good week. Stay safe. Ali, who do you have winning Euros?
It's coming home.
It's coming home.
It's coming home.
Wow.
You didn't know that?
Yani mumona wa koloni ndio okay, sawa.
It's euros.
No, I'm just asking.
But even Spain were colony.
Me, I was not.
Mimi naweza kuambia reason yangu mbona niko na I'm coming home. My main reason number 1 ni Kobe Maino. Lakini on footballing terms,
yes,
England have Luke Shaw fit and they have Kyle Walker on the other wing.
No,
and the biggest weakness Spain imekuwa nayo ni crosses.
Okay.
And with Harry Kane and Bellingham, yes.
Mbona mlenga Saka? Mbona lenga
No, nasema kudili na crossi.
Okay.
Kudili na crosses, and hiyo ndio imekuwa weakness ya Spain. So the thing for me is like it's going to be a high scoring game. It is a 3-2 ama 4-3. But England are going to win it. Because just the mere fact that Spain cannot defend crosses and England have very, very good crossers.
They've mastered that.
Saka, Foden, Shaw,
set piece
na Walker.
Yeah.
Now Kobe Maino Maze, that boy has been huge.
Okay. So this is the part that you guys forgot. Lakini ni sawa nimewachanusha. Okay. Me, I'll go with Spain. See tutaenda Ibiza.
Kenyans have been too busy doing a revolution, so Kenyans have not even been posting about Euros. Have you guys noticed that?
Yeah, the soccer has been really on the back seat.
Yeah.
Yes, it's been on the back seat.
It has actually been on the back seat.
Dealing with
this is one
things.
time where I'm like, wa Kenya kweli wameonyesha, and they felt zero.
Yes.
Kwa hata influencer alikuwa kilo product alambwa tulia. Tutakuja huko siku tulia.
Wow.
Okay.
So and that's on Sunday. This Sunday. So with that said,
You forgetting Copa?
I was gonna go with Copa America, but
Argentina or Colombia.
For me, I want James to take it.
I'm going with Colombia.
But if Colombia wakisleki, Argentina wako ndani, and it's 3-0.
Okay.
Argentina wanajua nani Messi na Di Maria wana retire, so they're playing for a purpose.
Yes. So I think they want it bad enough, but this is really Colombia's to take. They have the younger team. They're faster. They are more dynamic.
Yeah, Colombia are good.
And
They actually knocked out the best team in the tournament.
Yeah, they're more dynamic,
sound.
but they cannot fall asleep.
So you mean Messi and Angelo Di Maria, they're not coming back for World Cup in the US?
No,
I don't know if you see. The thing is, you can't front Messi at that age.
Okay.
You can't.
Ule
kijana anacheza game ingine at another level. They can't wait on that. It's not like Portugal where Ronaldo can still pull those things. No.
Yeah.
Hata Ronaldo pia atarudi.
There's no.
Ronaldo is done. Both of them are done. Like Messi himself said, like his body cannot. Anamaliza then anamaliza contract yake ya MLS and is retiring.
Well, impromptu sports segment. Dr. Angusi, give us your last word.
Yeah, my last word to the diaspora is stay engaged. Let's support the home front. We have a very important role to play in driving the movement, making sure that the outcomes of the movement are in favor of the people. Those of us who are in the DMV area, as we said, we have specific leverage points that only we have, right? Out of the couple thousand people who live in the DMV area, we are close to the Capitol, we are close to the IMF, we are close to the White House, right? So the actors who are these adverse actors, the ambassador Meg Whitman, there's no reason why we should not go and protest.
Missing in action,
right?
Yeah,
and ask the administration to get rid of this this individual. We've made a decision that we're going to the IMF, and already unprecedented. They gave a very detailed response and a country FAQ page, which tells you people are listening. So we have an opportunity as the diaspora to leverage our collective wisdom, but also to leverage our numbers and our strategic positions to make a difference for young people in the world. Because the more we surface what is happening, the less the risk for them in the homeland. We should support in terms of like not just giving, amplifying and retweeting, but let's put our money where our mouths are. I always say that, like, one of the big challenges of, as I was saying earlier, running for office is that you need to give money. And in this country, for instance, we know this political system works because the local mwananchi gives money to the political candidates that they want. They don't just talk or make their political positions known. They put their money where their mouths are. So let's stay engaged. Make sure you come for the protest. It's a good also networking opportunity. We always come out for cultural events, religious events, but then where matters regarding our homeland, let's show up in numbers and make our voices known. Thanks for listening. I'll make sure to come to the show again, and let's just keep this conversation going.
All right, asante sana Dr. Wangusi. I mean, this was quite amazing. It's been like quite a roller coaster for Kenya in the last 4 weeks, day to day. Like we've been having to keep up minute by minute. Like things have been happening on on the ground, on the media, on X Spaces. Like there's been so much that has been happening in the last 4 weeks. Quite a historical moment. Of course, we've already done 2 protests out here in the DMV. There's other protests that have happened in other cities, New York, Dallas, Houston, LA, and so many other places that have already done protests. And I want to encourage people to keep engaged. And of course, we're going to try to connect with the organizers in the different cities. Not forgetting our protest here in the DMV in the Washington, D.C. is on Saturday, the 20th of July. It's going to be at 1900 Pennsylvania Avenue. That's IMF HQ2. So anyone who's within a 5-hour radius, I say 5 hour because that's a very drivable distance. So we are talking of North Carolina. We are talking of Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Delaware, New York, New Jersey, Philly, all those cities. Please try to make your way here. And if you're driving, like your car is a 5-seater, try to find 4 people. Do not come by yourself. Try to find 4 people to fill that car, because the more we are, the bigger a statement we'll make and the bigger impact that will be felt. Because not to overstate our importance, but it was such a wild coincidence that after we published that flyer is when IMF responded. The IMF spokesperson responded within 48 hours.
It was even shorter. I think it was like more like 12 hours. Almost immediate.
Of us first publishing the flyer. Yeah, it was within, I think, 24 hours of us first publishing the flyer. So this is so the success of this is a combination of the sum of the small parts. So don't see yourself as just one inconsequential person. You that one person. Imagine 100 other people considering them that one person, and it's a sum of the parts that will make it consequential for all of us. And this is a historical moment. Other countries are watching us, and other countries are trying to calculate how can we replicate something similar. So this might be good, because if this happens across other countries in Africa, it means other economies are going to be better. We can better like start doing business with each other, and everybody will be happy. Na kwa hayo machache, yote ambaye anataka kunipigia simu, nambari yangu bado ni ile 1-800 mteule. Na operator akishika simu, mwambie unataka kusema na mjukuu, na akikuuliza ni mjukuu yupi, mkumbushe ni mjukuu yule wa Masai, because I'm Kenyan by blood, American by design, Masai by choice. Sichagui, sikagui na sibagui. Kwaherini.
Aiden, Daddy loves you. Jerry, Daddy loves you. Nemo, Daddy loves you. Until next week, be blessed.